Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Nippoldt. I'm a third-year PhD student at the University of California, San Diego in anthropology. And I've been working on the topic of Seva among... There? Oh, okay. I'm Nippoldt, PhD student at UCSD. And I've been working on the topic of Seva, or selfless service among Sikhs, in some of my preliminary fieldwork for my dissertation. Oops. Okay, sorry. Since beginning research in India, I've been interested in how people and communities work to come to terms with the aftermath of the history of colonialism, independence and partition, profound social change, and episodes of violence and community conflict. Today, I aim to explore how Seva, or selfless service, contributes to well-being, healing, and intercommunity harmony among Sikhs in northern India following this history. So here's what I'm going to talk about today. First, I'll give you a brief history about Seva. Then I will share with you some of my theoretical frameworks for investigating these questions. I will then give you a brief overview of my methods, analysis, field site, and participants. And then I'll share with you some of my findings and the future directions I hope to go with this research. So as many of you know, Seva has a long history in South Asia of describing acts of service to others. Seva is often performed within the space of the Gurdwara, but many contemporary practices extend beyond the Gurdwara, and Seva is often nowadays practiced as community social work, serving all of humanity. The forms of Seva practiced as community social work often include cleaning, cooking and distributing food or langar, or providing medical services. Practices of Seva, I am arguing, can also be understood as care or pro-social behaviors. That is, behaviors or activities that intend to help others or repair our world so that we can live in it as well as possible. Practices based on ethical conceptions of helping, serving, or cooperating with others, such as Seva, create new relationships between actors and receivers of care. They create opportunities to foster social bonding and feel empathy. In addition, some research has illustrated that caregiving can provide an internal source of resilience and give a sense of purpose and motivation for those providing care. Additionally, some research in biology has shown that there are actual biological processes that accompany both social bonding and caregiving, such as the release of oxytocin, which is a neurotransmitter, which creates embodied feelings of well-being and biological systems of resilience. So the research that I've been doing has taken place over the past 2 years in Delhi and Chandigarh, India. As an anthropologist, I use participant observation, in-depth interviews, and document collection to understand the contemporary practice of Seva and the experience of sevadars. In my data analysis, I analyze life histories and moral experiences related to engaging in Seva, and I analyze the discourses, or how people talk about the meaning of Seva. Thus far, 20 participants are involved in the research across the 2 sites. The participants all identified as Sikh and were part of organized Seva groups. These groups distribute langar, hold free medical clinics, clean community areas, provide shelter to the destitute, and engage in other voluntary social work across Delhi and Chandigarh. The individuals that are a part of these groups are diverse in terms of socioeconomic status and age. However, the Seva groups are not part of the organized Gurdwara system, but they are rather informal communities brought together through their shared practice of Seva. Now, the population that they serve are also diverse, but in terms of ethnicity and religious community. However, the majority of the individuals they serve belong to lower socioeconomic classes and are often migrant workers from other parts of India. These populations are often turned away from the government hospitals and have nowhere else to turn for food or for medical services. So now, with the experience of sevadars in mind, I shift to my ethnographic data to explore the challenges and the benefits experienced by sevadars. So first, I will explore the risks and challenges that sevadars shared with me. Then I will explain the personal experiences of transformation and well-being. And finally, I will explore how Seva fostered community transformation, healing, and intercommunity harmony. So when asked, sevadars spoke about the challenges of doing Seva in a number of ways. Some of the risks of doing Seva were related to physical safety, such as being a victim of theft, violence, or infectious disease. While many of the sevadars had been victim to these types of incidents of physical harm at some point in time, they did not actually see these risks as the most troublesome conflicts in their reflections of the challenges of doing Seva. Rather, more challenging than these threats to their physical safety and wellness were conflicts that arose within personal relationships and experiencing unpleasant moral emotions. So many of the sevadars told me that they received moral judgments from others that their engagement in Seva was not a good thing. The moral judgments they received included beliefs that they were neglecting their own family, were interacting with populations of people who were deemed undeserving of care, or were engaging in unproductive or unlucky practices. The sevadars did not agree with these judgments, but the judgments, which often came from friends, family members, or neighbors, nevertheless led to unpleasant moral experiences and self-evaluations. Many experienced feelings of guilt and shame, and a number of participants felt morally conflicted about continuing their involvement in Seva due to the objections they received. So now I share a couple of case studies to kind of understand these conflicts. Jesleen was a 27-year-old graduate student, and she spoke to me about the objections she faced from her parents regarding her interest in Seva. Her parents did not approve of her doing Seva and felt it was inappropriate for her to spend her free time engaging in it. She cooked and distributed langar with a Seva group weekly, but her family was concerned that her doing Seva was not appropriate, that it would jeopardize her opportunities for marriage, and that she was neglecting her duties as a daughter at home. This caused her moral conflict because she was deeply committed to practicing Seva, but felt guilty for betraying her parents. Now, in comparison, an older woman, Shivani Auntie, who at the time of our interview was in her 60s, told me that when she was younger, in her 30s and 40s, and did Seva, she received disapproval similar to that of Jesleen's, but from her husband. He felt Shivani was neglecting taking care of him and their children when she would go and do Seva daily. But as she's aged and her responsibilities within the family have decreased or changed, she receives less disapproval from others. And finally, Maneet, who was a man in his 30s when we spoke, also heard objections from his brothers, father, and friends. He said to me, quote, "They tell me it is unlucky to do Seva," end quote. But he has felt that practicing Seva brings him good fortune and helps take away his problems. While the challenges of Seva exist, these challenges ultimately did not stop any of the sevadars from engaging regularly in Seva. Rather, I found that engaging in Seva led to transformations on both the level of the person and the community, and that these transformations through Seva shaped moral experience, fostered well-being and healing, and promoted intercommunity harmony, which I will talk about next after I get some water. So, on an individual level, all of the sevadars stated that participating in Seva has positively impacted their life. They mentioned feelings of happiness, a renewed sense of purpose and meaning in life, and a transformed sense of self through their practice of Seva. Jesleen, again, whose parents objected to her engagement in Seva, said that she first began doing Seva when she came to graduate school. At that time, she felt alone and unhappy. However, she feels that Seva has changed her and her life for the better, bringing her joy and bringing her together with others. Participating in Seva allowed individuals to feel a greater connection to Vaheguru and to a community of like-minded people. One participant, Karamjot, actually contracted tuberculosis while doing Seva. And while this presented a challenge to his health, he felt that Vaheguru and his practice of Seva helped him overcome the illness. Another Sevadar, Rani, said, quote, "If I ever get sick, I will have such a big family of people," that is the community of Sevadars, "who will be there ready to help me out." The community of Sevadars was like a new family for many, especially for those that had difficult relationships with their own family members. Those Sevadars that received negative judgment and opposition from friends or family felt accepted by the community of Sevadars, and they developed fulfilling relationships in those communities. In contemporary India, where rapid social change has happened over the past few decades, leading to urbanization, growing consumerism, and changes to the family structure, Seva is a way for people to create community, extended kin networks, and find meaning in life outside of consumerism. Seva helped instill a system of resilience to many Sevadars, I argue, through the creation of a supportive community, a meaningful practice that puts one's own circumstances in perspective to others who may not be as well off, and by creating embodied feelings of well-being. Some Sevadars also attributed good fortune in life, such as getting a new job, financial success, or good news in their family to their involvement in Seva. In fact, a few even said that they felt a bit selfish for engaging in Seva because they feel they get so much fulfillment out of it. Overall, Seva produced an increase in personal well-being. Now, the practice of Seva has also led to a transformation of the Sikh community, which I argue aids in fostering well-being and healing from past trauma, conflict, and social change. Participants expressed that the reputation of the Sikh community in the past was negative, being associated with the violence in the 1980s and 90s. One participant spoke to me about his perception of the Sikh reputation at that time, saying, "At that time, there was female feticide in Punjab, militancy across the border in the other part of Punjab. There were so many other issues. Use of fertilizers by the farmers, farmer suicide. There were so many issues, all negative, which we used to read in our newspapers. And I used to think, isn't there anything positive about Punjab? Isn't there anything good about Sikhs and Punjab?" The post-militancy period in Punjabi populations carried with it shame, stigma, and hurt for many Sikhs. Furthermore, this communal violence produced further conflict, distrust, and resentment between different religious and ethnic communities in India. The older participants expressed that they felt a shift in the reputation of and their own feelings about being Sikh. In the 1990s, they expressed feeling shame and stigma about being a Sikh, but presently they feel a lot of pride in identifying as Sikh. Some participants attributed this change of feeling pride and positive feelings about their Sikh identity to the actual practice of Seva. In particular, participants said that they felt proud to be Sikh because their Seva was helping communities outside of their own, namely Hindus and Muslims. Additionally, many felt that the reputation of Sikhs have improved through their practice of Seva in the broader public sphere and has presented the Sikh character as helpful, caring, upstanding, and self-sacrificing, rather than the character of violence and threat that was associated with the militant operations of past decades. Participants expressed that they felt Seva has improved the image of the Sikh community because they are serving, intermingling with, and trying to get along with other communities. They are trying to spread ideas of tolerance and shared humanity through, as one participant said, quote, their practical action, Seva, rather than just doing puja. Karamjot said, people can intermingle with each other for good work. In doing this, it's creating some kind of good rapport for the two communities, Sikh and Hindu, here in Delhi. If we're feeding someone, that means the next day, he's not going to come and kill you. The improvement in intercommunity relationships through Seva supports this argument that Seva, as an act of care, has the ability to foster social bonding and transform relationships between those interacting within the space of Seva. For participants in the study, engaging in Seva was a way to remove boundaries between and provide care across religious communities. Overall, I argue that acts like Seva have the potential to foster harmony and perhaps negate past conflict between communities because of the transformative nature of these ethical behaviors. So by engaging in Seva for the marginalized and for communities who have harmed their own in the past, Sikhs may be able to shed past experiences of trauma and conflict. In this transformative shedding through the practice of Seva, a newly healed subject comes into being. The social bonds and new relationships that arise through acts of care and service also foster intercommunity harmony between the Sikh sevadars and the communities they serve. The practice of Seva offers a strategy for how individuals and communities can foster well-being and intercommunity harmony while living in diverse and often tumultuous religious and multicultural climates, like those of India and parts of the diaspora in the West. I intend to investigate the experience and contemporary meaning of Seva further among Sikhs through my future dissertation research, and in doing so, I aim to compare practices of Seva in Delhi and Amritsar, as well as practices of Seva in the Sikh diaspora. Thank you very much.